Earlier this year, PG&E added a flat $24 charge to every residential electric bill in its territory. Just for being connected, people saw it and panicked. But here's what almost nobody reported. After that charge was added, the typical PG&E bill actually went down about $5 a month. Here's how that's possible and whether it's actually good for you. Let's start with the number that scared everyone. On March 1, 2026, PG&E rolled out what's called an income-graduated fixed charge. For most customers, it's about $24 a month. If you're on the CARE Low Income program, it's around $6. For FARA and affordable housing tenants, about $12. That charge shows up no matter how little electricity you use. On its own, that sounds like a straight-up increase. But it didn't come alone. At the same time, PG&E cut the price of the electricity itself, the per-kilowatt-hour rate, by roughly 5 to 7 cents. So the bill got restructured. More of it is now a flat fee, and less of it is tied to how much power you actually use. For a typical household, those two changes roughly cancel out, and then some. The net effect was a bill that went down about $5.14 a month. In fact, this was PG&E's fifth electric rate decrease since January 2024, adding up to a cumulative cut of about 13%. For CARE customers, the restructuring was even better, an 8.3% drop, roughly $10 a month, because they got the reduced $6 charge and the lower usage rate. So why did people panic? Because a fixed charge feels different. When you cut your usage, run the AC less, unplug things, you expect your bill to drop. A fixed charge doesn't move. It's there whether you use 1 kilowatt hour or 1,000. That feels like a penalty, especially if you've worked hard to conserve. And that reaction is fair. But here's the logic behind it. A big chunk of what a utility spends has nothing to do with how much electricity you use. Poles, wires, substations, wildfire safety work, those cost the same whether your house is efficient or not. Regulators argued that baking those fixed costs into the per kilowatt hour rate was actually unfair to low usage and lower income households, who were subsidizing the grid connection of everyone else. The income-graduated design is meant to flip that, which is why lower-income customers pay a smaller fixed charge. It also helps to understand why PG&E bills are so high to begin with, because it's the backdrop to all of this. California has some of the highest electricity rates in the country, and a lot of that traces to one word: wildfires. PG&E equipment has been tied to catastrophic fires, and the company is now spending enormous sums burying power lines, clearing vegetation, and hardening the grid to prevent the next one. Those costs are real, they're ongoing, and they land in rates. Add in the expense of long transmission lines across a huge state and aggressive clean energy targets, and you get a bill that's structurally high before you use a single kilowatt hour. That context matters, because it means even a year of rate decreases is happening on top of an already elevated base. Down $5 is real. It's just down from a high starting point. Now, does the restructuring help you or hurt you? It depends on who you are. If you're an average or high-usage household, you probably come out ahead because the per kilowatt-hour cut saves you more than the $24 charge costs. If you're a very low-usage household, someone with a tiny apartment or solar panels covering most of your use, the math is less friendly because you're now paying a fixed $24 that you can't shrink by conserving. Rooftop solar owners especially need to recheck their numbers because a fixed charge changes the payback math on panels. There's one more thing you need to know, and it has nothing to do with the fixed charge: summer peak pricing. On PG&E's most common residential time-of-use plan, electricity during summer peak hours, 4 to 9 p.m. from June through September, runs around 45 to 50 cents a kilowatt-hour. That's when the grid is strained and prices spike. So even with your overall rate down for the year, a hot afternoon with the AC blasting between 4 and 9 can still produce a brutal bill. The single most effective thing you can do is shift heavy usage, laundry, dishwasher, EV charging, pool pump to before 4 p.m. or after 9. And here's a practical point on that time of use plan, because it trips up a lot of people. Time of use means the price of electricity changes depending on the hour, not just how much you use. The utility charges the most when everyone wants power at once, that 4 to 9 p.m. window on hot days, and less when demand is low, like overnight. This is actually a lever you control. Running your dishwasher, laundry, or EV charger at 10 p.m. instead of 6 p.m. can cost less than half as much for the exact same task. Most people never change their timing because they don't realize the price is moving under them. If you do just one thing after this video, log into your account, find out which rate plan you're on, and look at when your peak hours are. That single piece of knowledge is worth more than most bill-lowering gimmicks. So let's pull it together. PG&E's scary-looking $24 charge came paired with a per-kilowatt-hour cut, and for the typical household, the net bill actually dropped about $5 a month, part of a 13% decline since 2024. Lower-income customers did even better. But if you're a very low user or you have solar, you may not share in that win. And no matter who you are, those 4 to 9 p.m. summer rates are where the real money is. The thing to watch next is PG&E's next general rate case, the 2027 request, which is already in front of regulators. Rates have been drifting down for 2 years. Whether that continues or reverses gets decided there. We'll break it down when it lands. If your electric bill keeps rising, this channel breaks down a different utility every week. Subscribe and watch the next one right here.